All right, this is Interview with an Artist Part 2. Hello!
Hi, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while.
I know, it's been forever.
Yeah, we have to do this more often.
Oh, and that's why I'm back within a couple of days.
Okay.
We're making
That's
this little
great.
thing. So after last week's conversation, I feel like we can move on to some other paintings that you have. There's a lot to choose from. I think there's a little over 30, must be, right? 30 paintings in total. So I wanted today to ask about Black Tie. And that is the painting that, fun fact, this painting I have had it on top of my piano, like on my wall, for my entire life, even before I was born. So when I was practicing piano as a kid, I would always look up at that painting, you know, this grand, beautiful painting, and be like, wow, like, it's so uniquely inspiring, you know, it would keep me going somehow. So now this is like healing a little part of my child because I want to know, or my inner child, because I want to know.
Black Tie, I thought to myself about, I love animals and I love nature and I love, and the penguin was always impressed me with, it seemed like they were already dressed for an affair, like they're wearing tuxedos.
Yeah.
Like they're
Right.
formally dressed.
The penguins.
And wouldn't they look great in a ballroom where they're just standing around doing nothing different than they do in real nature, just standing around looking, and put them in a grand ballroom, maybe in a medieval castle,
Yes.
and put them in that scene. That's it, where the scene is incongruous. They don't go together. They're not supposed to go together. But I'm putting them together in the scene. I did that with a block party also,
Yes.
where you have two people dancing in a ballroom. We're all dressed in a tuxedo and a beautiful red dress, and the surrounding is a bombed out city.
I see.
These are two things that don't go together.
You're very
The
big into.
juxtaposition of these things.
It's ironic.
They don't belong.
Yeah.
You see, I'm saying something there.
The irony that's at play in the painting Black Tie, I think, is so interesting because I think penguins resemble like innocence and purity, and when you look at the top of your painting, which is the mural within that medieval castle, there's people fighting to the death, and they're human.
The world is on fire. It looks like the world is on fire.
Yes.
And you see they're all killing each other.
They're all human.
If you look on the walls, you see weapons hanging on the walls.
Yep.
So my idea was to set the innocence of nature against the sins of humanity.
Wow.
And that was my idea of that painting.
Truly, it shows, like, straight through, I mean, the first thing you notice probably are either the penguins or the chandeliers. Those chandeliers are beautiful. How did you even get those to look so perfect?
Again, I found a photo of a medieval castle, I think it was in Italy, somewhere in Italy, that actually existed.
Mm.
But the photo only showed half the room.
Oh, right. Based off the...
There was too much that wasn't.
Those. Yeah.
So I decided to do an entire room, but just duplicating the sides from two sides and putting them together into one room.
Oh.
So instead of two chandeliers, there's four.
Yeah, that fills up the space beautifully too.
And then you have, in the background, you have a staircase.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
grand
it's
staircase.
far away, it's much lighter, but it shows the depth of how far it was away, you see.
Yeah.
So Black Tie, I wanted to show that sense of depth because in the background, everything else is darker inside.
Yeah.
But that was another room, a separate space with a staircase, and there was a big drawing on the wall.
Yeah.
You see, and the two penguins that are standing, one standing behind a pillar and the other is out in the light, you could see how the light is shining on them, and the light is shining on the ground as it gets darker and darker, as it gets closer and closer. And that creates that sense of depth.
Right. Wow.
The chandeliers, of course, what I did was I painted the big chandeliers first, but the smaller chandeliers that are much further away are the same chandeliers.
Same
Only I
thing.
made them much smaller.
Right. Yeah.
So they look like they're so much further away, but it's
Yeah.
the same ones.
Interesting.
Now, in order to get them, the chandeliers so bright and crystally clear, of course, it's metal, it's made out of gold, say, and you have to get the colors right. But the only way you could show those chandeliers, the best way, is that you have to do the background first,
Right.
where it's dark. And you paint the background without the chandeliers. Whatever is behind the chandeliers has to be painted first.
Yeah.
Then the chandeliers are painted over
On top of it.
on top of it
And that takes.
with white, just white.
And how much time does that take?
Several coats of white to cover all that dark area behind it.
And you have to wait for the paint to dry too. So this is a long process, right?
It is a long process. So, you want to go on to the next?
Okay, so now we're moving on to the next painting, which is the Gambit. And I know that's a big fan favorite as well because of just how dramatic it is. We have it on a t-shirt right here. You probably can't tell from the reflection. But first I just want to ask how this idea came to be in the first place.
How did that come to be?
Yes.
The painting itself.
Yes, without giving away too much detail.
All right, I won't
'Cause-
give too much detail.
I don't want you to give away the big surprise yet, if you know what I'm saying.
When we lived in West Babylon, my next door neighbor, Tom Walsh, lived next door to me. And he had a very interesting face. And I wanted to paint him. And I was trying to find, in fact, I even had him pose for me. And there's a picture of it.
Yep.
He was cutting an apple or something, peeling an apple with a knife. Or something like that. I wanted to paint his hands and his face. It turned out that I never did do that, but I did find an idea to do a painting of him. And well, it turned out that I remember somewhere seeing a painting similar to this it was with two people playing chess, two old men playing chess. And that was my idea of having two people playing chess.
Yeah, right.
But of course, I needed a model. I needed someone to model for me.
Okay.
And I know how to play chess, but the whole thing, I imagined in my mind the lighting had to be a certain way. You see?
Yeah, the lighting is very cinematic, in my opinion.
This dramatic look of light and against dark, there's a word for it. It's called chiaroscuro.
Chiaroscuro. Okay. What does that mean?
It actually means the dramatic depiction of light against dark, and chiaroscuro is a style and a method that a lot of the old masters used. Like I said, Rembrandt and Caravaggio. And I studied their works. I looked at their paintings, and I wanted to copy that method, that idea. And so I wanted to use that in this painting, where the light would just disappear into the background, and you would only see the reflection of the light on the, on the subject.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And the rest you don't see, it disappears.
It kind of looks like there's a spotlight on them from
Well,
an abyss.
yes, that's what I did. I set up a light, a floodlight,
Yes.
so that it would show that. But I also wanted some light on the back of the guy on the right. You could see some light there on the back of his head.
Yes, you can. Yep.
The other guy, it's dark, completely dark. That's
Yeah.
the way I set the light. And then a lot of the light that you see is reflection of the man's shirt and the table into his face. All you see is his profile.
Yeah.
You see, whereas this guy's getting more of the light direct from the light, but there's strong shadow on the other side of his body, on his face.
I see. Hey, you can see the shadows especially well in the wrinkles on the shirts.
Yeah, right. And he had a lot of wrinkles on his face, too.
Yeah.
So,
dynamic face.
so
On his
of course,
hands,
how do
too.
I have one guy playing chess against himself?
You can't. Unless.
So the only thing I could think of is that have a table, set it up with a board with chess pieces on it,
Yep.
dress these guys in different costumes, take pictures separately,
Yeah.
and then put them together into a complete composition.
Right.
And that was my idea of how to do that.
And you pieced it together. So what you're saying is it's not two different people?
No, it's only one person. Two separate photographs taken from separate angles.
Yeah. So you use the same man to be both people.
And then somehow I had to get the angles correct. The angles of the board on the table.
Right.
Between them. Their hands. I wanted both their hands to be on the table.
I think the hands might be one of my favorite parts of the photo.
I love to do hands. Almost all my paintings have hands.
Says no artist ever. People argue that hands are the hardest thing to ever draw.
A lot of people, they fudge the hands, you know. But I use hands in everything that I do.
You do. Wow, it's very brave.
So in this case, I needed not only set it up, but the extra pieces I put in a plastic Tupperware, you know, like the soup containers you get in the Chinese restaurant. You see them sitting in there?
That one right there?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I see it. Oh, and that's where the extra pieces are sitting.
Yeah, they're sitting in the container.
Ha! That's the Chinese Tupperware that you get at the Chinese.
Yeah. And I had to paint it.
That's brilliant.
I had to paint it as though they were sitting in the plastic.
Yeah, right.
It looks like they're sitting in the plastic.
It does. Wow, that's. I love that.
So I set up those models there from life. I painted them.
Wow.
You see?
Wow. From life.
So that the shadows would show inside. They're sitting in the plastic, but they're showing shadows in the plastic.
Yeah.
And then there's a slight milky cover over them so that it looks like you're looking through the plastic.
Definitely. Wow. That's pretty brilliant, honestly. I love that. Just like an extra thing you wanted to add. I think that's cool.
Because what do you do with the pieces that are sitting around? It's just let them stand there? The best place is just throw them in a plastic container.
I think that's a great approach. Yeah, I think that's great.
Now, here's the thing. I didn't know enough about chess to set up a real game. There is a real game going on there. And I had to enlist the help of my son, Stephen, on something like this.
Yeah, he did. Okay, so the chessboard is accurate. It is an actual
It's
game
accurate,
being played.
yeah.
Good. Okay, that's it.
He set it up in such a way that the guy on the left, or both players, could win with one move. Could checkmate the other guy with one move. Both of them. But it was the guy on the left, it was his turn to move.
Oh, really?
That's why I told him, I want you to smile like you just swallowed a canary. Like a cat just swallowed a canary. And I told him, when you're looking at the other guy, I want you to look at him and say, "You son of a bitch." You know?
Yeah, you dirty
Now,
little.
I got that look on their faces that way.
Wow. Well, that was going to be my question. Like, please explain why one is frowning and why the other is smiling. And it's because they're playing a real game of chess and the other person's about to beat them. Wow.
That's the whole idea.
I love that. They both have one move that could make them both.
Right,
Wow.
right. But it was his turn. That's why he's got that big smile on his face.
Oh man.
And the other guy's pissed off now.
So this is just taken moments before disaster.
Yeah, right. It was his turn, and then this other guy realized that he lost. He just lost. But I couldn't have done that without Steve. Without Uncle Steve.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, thank you, Uncle Steve. Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it.
That's why that painting is in his room.
That makes sense. He won.
It's in his cave.
His cave.
Caveman.
But who's the person who taught him how to play chess?
That was me. But
That was you.
it didn't last long though, because I'm a bad loser.
Yeah.
He started beating me right away.
We're still in the middle of the game.
Oh, yeah. You know what he said?
What?
He looked at it.
Yeah.
He says, I think it's time that you guys have to start spilling a little blood now.
We played for like 5 hours, okay? 5 hours. And each of us only took one pawn from the other person.
Yeah. So he says, you're too careful. It's time to start trading places.
This is where it's gonna get dangerous. We might have to get that on film. All right, Grandpa. Okay, so we're gonna talk about soulmates now.
Okay.
And I just had my phone out just so I can see a reference photo. But I've had this painting in my house for the majority of my life as well, right?
Yes.
And it's there's so many emotions that I get from looking at this painting because of the wholesomeness of the puppy and the size difference of the human and the dog. And who is this person and why did you decide to paint this?
Who is the person?
Yeah, and why did you decide
All right.
to go with this?
When I retired from the city buses, I drove a school bus.
Right.
And this man, his name was Ray Fleming, he was a school bus driver with me.
Okay.
We were friends
Oh.
on the job.
Ray Fleming. I like
Yeah.
that name. Hope you're doing well.
And I was painting then, you know? This
Yeah.
was a long time ago. I retired in 1999 after 13 years. So this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, so everybody in work knew I was painting. And he asked me if I would paint a picture of his dog.
Really? Aw.
He says he has this dog, and I forget the dog's name, to be honest with you. But he referred to his dog as his soulmate. That's why I call it Soulmates.
Aw, okay.
That's why I entitled it that. He was living by himself. He wasn't married. And he loved his dog, and he wanted me to paint his dog.
It's beautiful.
Well, he happened to be a good-looking guy, a big man. He was about 6'3" or 6'4".
Yeah, he does look very
Really
tall.
big guy.
Yeah.
And I says, all right, Ray. I says, I'll tell you what. I'll paint your dog. Only if you let me paint you with the dog.
Really? Because that's a whole model right there. It's perfect.
He lived in West Hempstead.
Okay.
And we set up a date that I would go over on a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
And I'll bring my camera and my tripod. I have a tripod. So I went over to his house.
Yeah.
And his dog was a little bigger than I thought it would be.
Really?
It was a poodle.
Yeah.
It wasn't a full-size poodle. It was a miniature poodle, but it was a little bigger. In the picture, it turns out I made him a little smaller than it was in real life.
Yeah, but that's okay.
So I had this idea, and this is an idea where, do you remember my mentioning from a photo that I saw in National Geographic, a guy playing a flute or something?
Yes, yes.
All right?
Yes.
So that's what gave me the idea. But I don't have a flute. He don't know how to play a flute. Nobody knows anything about it. But since I worked for the school district, I asked a teacher who was teaching music, a music teacher, if I could borrow a recorder.
Oh, no way. Yeah, okay.
And that's a real instrument, a recorder.
Yeah, I played the recorder.
Yeah.
Sure, a lot of people did actually.
Yeah.
Like that, I think we had a lot of people had to do that in like kindergarten or first grade, and or like later in elementary school. But yeah,
So I decided that I'm going to bring the recorder with me. So when I got to his house, he had this big dark brown easy chair, one of those,
the ones that kick out, the recliners.
And it was by the window, and I had him sit in the chair. Those clothes are what he was wearing.
Okay, so he was wearing that day.
That hat, he had a baseball hat, or it was a sports hat.
Is that dolphins?
No, wait, that wasn't the hat that he was wearing.
Oh, it wasn't?
He was wearing a dark hat, but it was a baseball hat.
I see, yeah.
So I took a photo of him sitting in the chair with his leg up, with one leg up, the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
And a lot of times you can achieve really good stuff if you change the perspective of where the camera is located.
Oh, really?
The position of the camera can make a big difference in the composition
Yeah.
of anything you do.
Right. Can change the proportions just a little bit based off the angle.
And not only that, but where the camera is, above him or below him.
Right. Yeah, that makes a difference.
See? So I had this idea. I set the camera. Chris has the camera. I gave it to him. I think it's digital. It's digital.
Mm-hmm.
I set the tripod up, but I shortened the legs so short that the camera was this high from the floor,
And he was sitting up here.
and he was sitting in the chair.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense.
I put a wide-angle lens on it,
Mm-hmm.
and I got up close to him.
Oh, interesting.
That brought his sneaker into the camera.
Yes, it does.
So I ended up with a portrait of the bottom of his sneaker.
Yes, I think that might be one of my favorite parts of the picture is the bottom of the sneaker. It's so, because it literally looks like it's being pushed out of the painting.
So where I had the camera gave me a perfect composition. So my idea was to have the dog sitting up on the footrest
Mm-hmm.
next to his foot,
Aw,
right?
yeah.
What I really wanted to have the dog doing was the guy is sitting there playing the recorder, and the dog is howling while he's playing. Because dogs will do that.
Dogs do. They do. They join.
Yeah. So how are we going to get this to happen,
How are you going to get a dog to pose?
Yeah.
Exactly
how am I going to get the dog to pose?
Yeah. So what'd you do? Wait,
Well-
so is the dog in the photo with him, or?
Yeah. No. I'll show you. I'll tell you how that happened.
Oh, so okay.
How I got that.
Yeah, okay. How did you?
He had a coffee table.
Sure.
I told him to sit the dog on the coffee table and go up to him with a biscuit and hold it up like this,
Mhm.
so that he's reaching up.
Got
He's
it.
reaching up to get the biscuit, tease him with it.
Oh wow.
And then I took the shot.
Boom. Yeah.
So it looked as though the dog is sitting there howling.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, that worked. And then.
Then I put that picture in with him on the pedestal. He had a table, a snack table, or a table where you put stuff on like this.
Sure. Snack table.
And
Yeah.
and he had some stuff. It's in that table right behind him.
Yep, I see it. With the ice
Yeah,
carrier
yeah,
and
yeah.
the glasses.
And
Yeah.
so we set that up there.
Mm-hmm. Wait, I have a question. So you said in the original photo that he was wearing a black hat.
Oh yeah, it was a dark colored hat. Now here's the thing. I did paint it with the dark hat,
You did.
and someone told me. I'll tell you who it is. I don't know if you know. She's a cousin of yours,
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you ever meet her?
I don't know. I think. Yes,
Well-
I think I did meet Charlotte. I have.
You met Charlotte?
Yeah, but like later in life.
And her husband, he came to the house one day,
Mm-hmm.
and he looked at the painting and he says, "You know what?" He says, "That hat looks like it's sitting a little heavy on his head."
Oh, interesting.
So, but he was a smart guy, very smart guy. So I took his advice and I painted over it. And I asked Uncle Steve for his hat. He was a Dolphins fan. So I put Uncle Steve's hat on his head.
Oh, I see.
And I painted the dolphins. That's why you see the dolphins there.
Well, I love this painting, and it's beautiful, and all you have to do is look at it, and you know that there's love.
That took first prize at a competition that I entered.